But here's the thing is that we don't need you to be the smartest person in the room anymore. We don't need you to try and be perfect because these days in 2026, we all have the right answers at our fingertips. We all have access to the right information and all the right answers at the push of a button. What we don't have is you. So when you ask, how do we do that? Well, that's where the work starts. That's where you have to start taking risks. And this is where it connects to my work as an actor of letting yourself be seen, opening yourself up and letting people learn more about you, connect with you on a level that goes below the surface of just what your profession and your title allows you to do. This is where now you have to allow yourself to communicate and connect as a human being. And I know we hear about these things all the time now of being authentic and engaging and vulnerability. But a lot of people really don't know how to do that. A lot of people want to be authentic, but most people don't know how to do it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Your Business, Your Next Level. I'm your host, Eunicia Peret, and today I have Brian Lafontaine with us. Brian, listen to this. He brings a 30-plus year career as a professional actor with roles in hit productions like Ozark, Stranger Things, Outer Banks, The Hate You Gave, Homeland, Nashville, and The Vampire Diaries. As a public speaking coach, Brian brings performance training, storytelling mastery, and deeply human insight to individuals, teams, and to companies. And overall, he loves helping people communicate with clarity, confidence, and authenticity. And I've been very impressed with Brian from the very first time we met. We were introduced by our mutual friend, Candice, and here we are. A few weeks later, we're having an amazing podcast. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too. Always great chatting. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, Brian. Tell us, how did you make that jump from being a professional actor, and you still take acting roles, to coaching people on stage speaking and getting in front of others? Because you and I both know that it's probably the number one fear out there, public speaking?
Yeah, it's up there somewhere. You hear it change all over the place, but it's pretty high up there. And how I got into it, I mean, yes, I'm so glad that you clarified that I am still an actor, because my ego is still not ready to let go of the fact that my acting career has taken a slightly different course over the past few years. But yeah, I've been a professional actor for over 30 plus years, and it's just part of being an independent contractor, part of being self-employed, especially in this job by job business. There's hardly been a day over the past 3 decades where I haven't been trying to get a new job. That's just part of being an actor. Along with that, there's also that fear, I guess you'd say, or just that unanswered question of, is this going to be the end of it? Is today the last day? Is this the last gig? Is this the last job or audition? And if so, then what could I even do? What am I qualified to do? I mean, I was really, really fortunate to have the career that I've had run for so long, where I didn't have to worry about doing anything else. I truly made my entire living off of being an actor for a long time. And a few years ago, I could feel things start to shift a little bit. And, we always have dips in the business, but this one lasted for about 3 months. So, it was that realization of like, oh, I think this might be it. This might be the thing that you've been dreading for so long. And so I was really faced with that reality, or that question of, if this is it, then what could I even do? And I didn't really know where to look. And I'm not one to sit around and wait, for the other shoe to drop. So I was trying to be proactive about it and think about like, okay, where can I start to take this if this is really starting the decline? And my sister-in-law, who's a very successful executive coach, she and I were having a conversation over Thanksgiving, and she said, have you ever thought about public speaking? And I said, say more. She said, you should really think about public speaking. And she said, you should really think about offering your services as a public speaking coach. And it really was just this sort of light bulb moment of like, oh, duh. It just made total sense. And I never thought about it that way. I've never spent any time truly working in the corporate or professional world to think that I had built up and acquired this skill set that would translate and transfer outside of the entertainment industry. That never crossed my mind. But as soon as she said it, it was like, oh my gosh, yes, I just take the same thing that I've been doing with actors and just offer it to people in the professional world, in the corporate world. And so that was the beginning of the transition. But at the same time, it was also that realization of, oh gosh, I have no connections to the corporate world, to the professional world, to the people who need this skill right now. How do I start to get there? So, at the ripe old age of, I found myself starting a business from scratch in a way that I never had considered before or never thought that I'd find myself in. So it really has been this shift and this change from, living this artistic lifestyle where I have this team of people where auditions come to me or, my reputation just gets me booked because I've been doing it so long, to really having to do all this work on my own. I'm the one who's spearheading it. And I'm probably working harder now than I ever have in my life.
Absolutely. And you're also hearing from the folks that work with you, Brian, you're delivering so much value. And I'd love to know from you. So in what we do, obviously, I run into a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners that have found a lot of success. And one of the things that I know is that most of those individuals are very much focused on, well, it has to be perfect. If it's not perfect, they will literally not get up in front of a room. And you and I both know that perfection is an elusive idea. It never is. I mean, you could sit on your head for 72 hours and it's still, there's something that's still not going to be perfect about it, or that presentation or whatever it is. How do you get individuals to get away from that idea of it needs to be perfect before they get up in front of a crowd, or before they get up and do a presentation or do the thing that needs to be done that maybe, just maybe, will move the needle of their business so much further than perhaps it might have already moved?
Well, I mean, I think it's a fairly basic concept that perfection is an unattainable goal. It's never going to be perfect. And to try and set that up for your audience, if you're this symbol of perfectionism, then what is that telling your audience? What is that conveying to your audience? That they have to strive to shoot for where you are and anything less than that is unacceptable? There's no way that, I'm going to say, anybody can hit that milestone, can reach that goal. So why do we put that expectation on each other or on ourselves? I understand wanting to do well because you care about it, but the idea of perfection is more about you than it is about the people that you're talking to. And that when you're speaking, I don't care if you're a CEO, I don't care if you're the president of the United States, it's not about you, it's about them. It's about the people that you're talking to. You're speaking for their benefit, not to inflate your own ego. This isn't to make you look good and, hear the sound of your own voice. It's to help them. You're sharing something with them to make their life better, to make their job a little easier, to give them some hope, to give them some encouragement or support. It's not about you.
So
So,
how do individuals break away from that? Is it fear? Is it the desire for perfection? Is it somewhere in between that has them holding back? I mean, a lot of those guys and gals, they have a lot of value to add. There's so much wisdom in those minds of theirs, and it doesn't come out because, again, is it fear? Is it the desire for perfection? And how do they get past that?
right. When I have conversations with people about public speaking to kind of get the ball rolling, a lot of the hesitations that I will hear are along the lines of, well, nobody's interested in anything that I have to say, or nobody wants to hear from me, or I'm not worth listening to. When the actual truth to the matter is, it goes beyond that. And it's more of, I don't think that I'm worth watching. I don't think that I'm worth seeing. Or even more so, I don't want anybody to see me. Don't look at me. It's the idea of being seen. People don't think of the idea of public speaking as it being a visual medium. We think about public speaking, we think it's about the words. It's all about the words. And it's an awful lot about the words, but we spend so much time with the words because we want to make sure that we say the right things and that we sound smart so that we don't look stupid. I want to make sure that I sound smart so that I don't look stupid. And nobody wants to look stupid. But here's the thing is that we don't need you to be the smartest person in the room anymore. We don't need you to try and be perfect because these days in 2026, we all have the right answers at our fingertips. We all have access to the right information and all the right answers at the push of a button. What we don't have is you. So when you ask, how do we do that? Well, that's where the work starts. That's where you have to start taking risks. And this is where it connects to my work as an actor of letting yourself be seen, opening yourself up and letting people learn more about you, connect with you on a level that goes below the surface of just what your profession and your title allows you to do. This is where now you have to allow yourself to communicate and connect as a human being. And I know we hear about these things all the time now of being authentic and engaging and vulnerability. But a lot of people really don't know how to do that. A lot of people want to be authentic, but most people don't know how to do it. It's not easy for people to open themselves up. And that's where you have to think about all the things that you bring to your job, all the things that you bring to your business, all the experiences, all the lessons, all the failures, the successes, the obstacles, the triumphs, the heartbreak, all the effort that anybody that you're talking to can relate to. That's where the connection comes from. That's not perfection. That's humanity.
I love that because honestly, one of the things for me that I've learned over the years is I am who I am. I used to be the ultimate striver for perfection. And what I learned was exactly what you said. It's not that actually people feel like they're being put down when the person sitting in front of them is feels like they've attained some level of awe that is not even really there. So
Right.
what I learned to do is to just say, you know what, I speak through examples. And so even with my husband and I were in Puerto Rico, I was speaking at a real estate conference about the things that I do in my day to day. How do we keep more to our bottom line to a group of individuals that don't ever think about what retirement is going to look like because typically they continue working until, and these guys, don't get me wrong, we're making really good money, really top of the top, creme de la creme. And yet they're sitting there and they're like, wow, because I use my own experiences. And I said, listen, I understand where you're at. Here's how I understand it. Here's why. This is where I came from. This is what I know. This is what our clients are going through.
Mhm.
People literally stood in line and said, you poked the bear and you talked about a topic that is so hard for most people to even open up their minds to want to hear about.
Right.
And you made everybody lean in to want to understand more because they felt that it was a connection and
Yes.
you wanted it for their good, not for anything else.
Right. And you just said the magic words. You felt. And that's the whole point is that you need to be able to feel something. When you're speaking and when you're spectating, when you're in the audience, you want to be able to feel something. And as a speaker, you should want your audience to feel something. Otherwise, what are they doing with this information? Why is it even necessary? It needs to mean something to you. If it doesn't mean anything to you, the speaker, if you're not trying to impress that feeling onto your audience, then what's the point? There's more to it than just the recitation of facts and data and expository information. It has to mean something to you. You know, all those things that we hide and we try to keep to ourselves, all the things about us that make us weird or that we think make us weird, those are things that actually make us the most relatable. So, again, being able to take that risk and to be courageous enough to just open that door just a little bit, to see a little bit more into you below the surface of whatever it says on your business card. You know, I'm currently working with a COO of an organization here in town, and a lot of what he talks about is very kind of dry financial information. And we were working on one of his presentations that he had coming up, and he was delivering it in a very flat and sort of, just monotone sort of way. And I had to ask him, I was like, is any of this good news? Is any of this bad news? How am I supposed to feel about this information that you're giving me? Is there anything about this that's exciting or interesting? Why are you telling me this? And how much of this information are you expecting me to retain? I said, I know that you are the COO, and along with that are some, self-applied expectations that go along with your title. But I just asked him frankly, I was like, at the end of the day, I was like, who cares? Who cares that you're the COO, whatever that means? You get to decide for yourself what that position looks like, what you bring to the title. It's a title. You decide as a person what you get to bring to it.
You know, it's interesting because as you were talking about that, Brian, one of the examples that my mind went to, I was recently at a physician conference, and there up on the stage, there are a lot of individuals that were talking a really good game about investment this and investment that, and medicine this and medicine that. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, their energy in the room was just like down in the dumps. And I'm looking at the people around me, and people are not excited. Yet at the same time, some of them had actually, it was kind of weird because some of them had actually gone into some of those investments. Yet
Mhm.
some of them had lost a ton of money. Now they're listening to this person that's supposed to somehow be driving them towards next steps on what they should be doing. And I'm sitting
Right.
there, I'm like, it's not computing. It's not computing because even in the demeanor of the presenters, you could tell, even if they tried to crack a joke here or there, like you could tell that there was something that was not, it was just not adding up.
Right.
And so one of the things that I tell my clients is whenever you're listening to someone speak, give them grace. First and foremost, give them grace because you never know. They
Of
might have
course.
never taken a speaking class. This might be their first time on stage. You never know. However, if you resonate with them, if you allow your hearts to truly connect with the intention and with that person individually,
Yes.
you will know, do I need to continue listening to this person or do I not? And on the speaker side, the least they can do, the least speakers can do is to try to attempt to engage with the audience,
Oh
because
my gosh,
some
yes.
will resonate, some won't, and that's okay. But without that engagement on both sides, it just, you end up being in rooms where you're like, oh my gosh, how much longer are we here?
Exactly. Exactly. I feel that the case in most of the situations, which is why I enjoy what I do so much, because I get to bring my 30 plus years of experience as an actor and in the entertainment industry as a storyteller and with engaging with an audience. And I get to bring that and try and help other people sort of capture that same essence, that same energy, and teach them those same skills. When I first started doing this, I thought that it was going to be very similar to working with actors because I've done a lot of acting coaching and I direct as well. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a similar sort of thing. Oh God, was I wrong? Because most people in the professional world, one, don't have any desire to be an actor or a storyteller or to be in show business. But so much of the way that it's set up now, I mean, look at this. You and I are on camera. This is no different than being on TV or being in the movies. It's really not. For your audience who's watching this, it's our job. It's your job and it's my job right now to keep their attention, is to keep them from changing the channel. It is exactly the same with what I've done for so long as an actor. So I get to help people, start to learn these skills and approach it from a much more creative standpoint. So many of the folks that I work with or talk to are so used to it being like in this structured corporate framework. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that. If you're seeing it all too often, then how refreshing is it when somebody does something just a little bit different, just a little bit different? And you go, oh, look at this. I haven't seen this before. This is fun.
And
The
it's
nerd.
beautiful when you're observing it, because you can, like, you know what you're looking for. It's like,
Right.
oh, I like that.
Yes.
However, for the untrained eye, what does that look like? What does that creativity look like for individuals that, again, they have a lot of value to add? For whatever reason, they've been sitting on the sidelines. I'd love to see more of those bright minds coming out and sharing their wisdom. And of course, we're offering that on Your Business, Your Next Level. And they have other stages as well where they can bless their audience, the audience, with the wisdom. How
Right.
do people bring creativity and how they in their presentation skills?
See, there you go. You said another one of the magic words, creativity. Everybody's got it. I don't care what you say. Everyone has a personality. Everyone has a sense of humor. Everyone is creative in their own right, in their own regard. And one, it's helping them to realize that. The way that I go about it with folks is I literally just start to interview them, just like what you and I are doing right now. And I start to pull out experiences that they've had, things that have been important to them, special moments in their lives, things that have been moments that they're proud of, or their heritage, or where they come from, all those things that have gotten you to this point. You can't disregard all the things that helped get you here. That's actually the reason why you're here. All those stepping stones, all that experience, all those lessons, all those interactions, no matter how big or how small. It could be, standing in line at Starbucks, on a Tuesday morning, getting a cup of coffee. You could have an interaction with someone that could, create this lesson or this moment that you can connect to your business. Or it could be something as significant as, having my first child, or the day that I got married, or the day that, my father passed away, or whatever it might be. Any of those things that are personal and unique to you. While our experiences may be the same, sure, millions and millions of people can identify and understand the concept of getting married, but your wedding day was not the same as my wedding day. It comes uniquely from you. It is from your unique perspective. Everything that you talk about is through your lens, and it's unique to you. And while it may be similar to me, there may be something in yours that I can pull out that, as an audience member, that I'm like, oh, I never thought about it that way. I never looked at it that way. And vice versa. We have so much that we can share with each other to help us get unstuck, to help, loosen the lid a little bit and maybe look at things in a slightly different way. There's so many things that we don't, that we just kind of brush aside and like, oh, and as I start to pull the thread at people of just unraveling their story and who they are, it opens up so many things where you can see them go, oh my gosh, I forgot that this happened and this happened and this happened. We can always find a way to tie a lesson to it, to tie it to your work. There was a VP that I was working with about a year ago who was part of an industrial tire company, very male driven profession, super smart guy. As the VP, he went and got his law degree, on the side, just to have it. He's one of those people, really, really smart guy.
Have it next to the title, next to the
Sure.
name.
Right. really great at speaking, but he was always the guy that they pushed in front of the clients or into the room to give the message, to share the message, or to get them out of something. They're like, he's the guy that he can talk so well that he can get us out of this situation and you don't even realize that he hasn't said anything to you. So he wanted to actually get better at that. And so I started to talk with him about the idea of storytelling. And of course, he was a little skeptical, like, okay, all right. And I said, just go along with me. And so we started to do some improv work. I started to incorporate acting techniques. And I said, I'm going to give you one word, one word. And I said, I want you to just tell me what you think of whenever you hear this word. And it wasn't a trick. It's not like there's some magic power to this word. I just happened to pull out the word blue. And he looked at me and he was like, okay. And I said, when I say the word blue, I said, what does that make you think of? And he took a second and he's like, okay, well, it makes me think about University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He's like, the Tar Heels, the blue and white, the blue from Carolina blue. And I was like, okay, cool. Now, where does that take you? And he ended up telling me this story about how he and his buddies went to a Carolina game. And I don't know how familiar you are with college sports, but the North Carolina Tar Heels is kind of like a religion for a lot of people down here in the South. And they take
Right.
it. Oh yeah, that's right. They take it awfully seriously. So he talked about how he and his buddies wanted to go to the Carolina game and how crazy it is in Chapel Hill on game days and all the things that they had to go through to get to where they wanted to watch the game in this one specific spot so they could have the best vantage point and enjoy the day as best they could. And he's telling me this whole story, and I'm just sitting there and I'm going, he has no idea what he's doing right now. And he gets to the end of the story and he just looks at me. And I said, do you have any idea what you just did? And he was like, no. I said, you just told me a story about leadership, team management, decision-making, goal setting, and execution, all around going to see a basketball game. I said, now, is there any way that we can relate this to what you do professionally? And he was like, oh man, he was like, I didn't even think about it in that way. So that's a way. I mean, people may not necessarily think of that as a creative way, but it's like how you take a business lesson and you wrap it up in a personal story that means something to you. And you watch the storyteller tell it with a great deal of enthusiasm and excitement and passion because it actually happened to them. It's going to come across and hit so differently than if you just try and take it out of a business book. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. And as you're talking through that, Brian, one of the examples that came to mind in my world that I would encourage our listeners as you're listening to this, even if you're not speaking on stage, now that you've heard and you're hearing this conversation, you're probably not going to look at individuals up on stage the same way. You're going to start thinking about what is going through their head. Oh my gosh, are they looking for perfection? Here's what I'll tell you. Brian, you said something earlier that was very, very relevant
Mhm.
because when someone presents the information and the other person's on the other side and they resonate, there's this point where they have to lean in or cut themselves out.
Mhm.
And all too often, I see individuals cutting themselves out from the conversation because they're not willing to bridge the gap between what that speaker, that individual might be saying and their relationship or their situation. They're immediately going in, making the decision of, I'm not that, I'm not good enough, I don't make enough money, I'm not a perfect example. When I talk to people and I say we work with these type of clients, oftentimes people go, I'm not wealthy. Like, that's not what I said. What I said
Right.
is, it's everyone has the opportunity. Yes, we do work with a lot of individuals that do very well for themselves. And at the same time, chances are, if you and I are talking, you probably have an issue that needs to be addressed. I don't care if it's me. I don't care if it's us. Just please listen to it, be open to it. You can then take it back to your team. And guess what?
Right.
Almost guaranteed it means money in your pocket. And so, my guidance to our listeners is don't ever put yourself on an island because you're something unworthy. You're not there, or you're maybe too high, or listen to what is being discussed and try to figure out how does that apply to you,
Right.
because there is a lot of wisdom in just about everything that we hear.
And just be willing to take some risks. I mean, you always hear about companies or individuals or entrepreneurs or founders who are trying to do something new or want to do something new and are trying to differentiate themselves from everybody else who's doing the same thing that they're doing. And so with that comes risk. And you have to be courageous to do that, to put yourself out there, knowing that it could fall completely flat. It could fall completely flat, but it also could take you to a place that you never even imagined. And the more open that you are and the more willing that you are to try new things and to sort of dive in head first, the results could be immeasurable. It could be absolutely
100%.
immeasurable.
Absolutely. And as I tell people, if you see somebody standing there with a brick of gold and they're asking you for $1 for that brick of gold, don't just say it's too good to be true. Maybe you don't get the gold right now, or maybe you just take a chance on yourself and try to figure out why is this person giving away the gold for pennies on the dollar. That happens so often. I see it all the time, and you pointed it so beautifully that you just have to, sometimes you have to take a little bit of a risk on at
Oh,
least
yeah.
understanding what's being said to you. Brian, speaking of risks, one of the
Yes.
questions that I absolutely love to hear from our listeners is failures.
Oh,
We all have our perceived quote unquote failures or things that perhaps were setbacks in the moment, and they, looking hindsight 20 being 20, they became the biggest blessings, or they were the biggest blessings. I'd love to hear what is maybe your number one or your top two failures or regrets, that, and what did you learn from those?
this is fun. This is a fun question because you never want to talk about these. You never want to own up to these.
Want to
Handful of
know a
years.
little secret?
What's that?
Those are actually the most loved questions on the
Oh,
podcast.
of course they are.
They just have so much wisdom.
So a handful of years ago, first of all, I got my start. I started out in stand-up comedy. That's how I broke into the entertainment industry doing and show business, was doing stand-up. And I was really young. I was 20 years old when I started. So I was very energetic and, I like to have a lot of fun, but I was young. I didn't know the things that I know now. I didn't have the wisdom of life like I do now. So after having, had a very successful acting career for almost 30 years at that point, I thought, what if I tried to get back into stand up? Maybe it'd be fun to get back into stand up now. Again, I'm a lot older. I have a lot more experience. I have a lot more wisdom and life experience, and maybe I have a lot more to offer. Maybe I have a whole new perspective. And so I had a good friend of mine who's a stand up comedian, and I was bouncing some ideas off of him. And he was like, yeah, there are some open mics that you can get into. And I know what it takes to prepare a 5 minute comedy set for an open mic night. I know what it takes, and you've got to prepare. You can't just wing it. So I went through all those steps and I did all the preparation and I worked on it for several weeks and I rehearsed it and I knew it inside and out. And I'm thinking like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. I've got a resume, an acting resume to choke a horse. I have got more performance experience than every single person that's going to be in that room combined. This is going to be awesome. And the night of the open mic, my first open mic night back, they call my name and I go up on stage and I completely blanked. I forgot everything. I mean, I forgot, just nothing was registering. Absolutely nothing was registering.
I
And
hear that men have this nothing box that they can go into. Did the nothing box show up?
the ego box left the room. That's what happened. The ego box, yeah, took over and ruined everything because it really was very much the approach of watch this, watch how great I'm about to be because I have all this experience. This is so easy. I've done this a million times. Let me show you how easy this can be. And it just all flew away. And like I was literally standing there. It felt like forever. And the only thing that I could do was to put the microphone back in the stand, apologize to the audience, and walk off the stage and walk out. I mean, literally, it was, and I absolutely hated and loathed myself. Like the level of inner monologue, mental abuse that I put myself through over the next, few hours, or probably even the next day, was pretty rough. I was awfully tough on myself. And once I was able to dust off my ego and look back at it, I realized the mistake that I had made. I realized what I had done. And is that I was up there, like we were talking about before, I was up there for myself. I didn't show up for them. I didn't show up for the audience. I showed up to stroke my own ego. And that's exactly what can happen because I went back to that same club, same room 2 weeks later with the exact same material and I made it about them and I connected with the audience and I brought them into my routine and it was, I blew the roof off of the place. I mean, to the point where the club owner was still laughing when I came off stage and he shook my hand and he was like, oh my God, that was amazing. He was like, you can come back anytime that you want. Same guy, same material, same room. It's not about the audience. When you hear people like, the audience was dead. No, that's on you. The audience takes their cues from you. It's what you bring to it. I showed up the second time for them and it was like, gosh, shame on you. You know better. You know that this isn't about you. This isn't about your ego. You're here for them. These people are here to have a good time. They want to be entertained and they don't want to feel like, they're separate from you. As soon as I remembered that and brought them into what I was doing, it made all the difference in the world. Again, it's about that connection and that engagement. It's not a solo performance, it's really not. It's not the Brian show. You and I are having this shared experience together, and I've got to acknowledge you and I've got to bring you into it, or else I'm done. And so that was a really, really hard lesson to relearn. So deep into my career. It really was. It was like, here's a slap in the face for you. Yeah,
That's
you're
so
not as perfect as
powerful,
you.
though, Brian. And I appreciate you bringing that for front and center. So now the audience knows that you are a stand up comedian as well. So if there's somebody out there looking for someone to get
Well,
up on stage and make them LOL, laugh out loud,
well, it's
perhaps
one of
you
those.
might consider it.
It's one of those skills that I can incorporate into what I do. I'm not cut out to be a true stand-up comedian anymore. It's like those guys who do stand-up comedy. You got to really want to do it. You've really got to want to be out there 5 nights a week or more, staying up until 1, 2 in the morning, just trying to get 5 minutes on stage. And I'm like, I'm too old for that. I'm glad it's a skill that I have that I can use and incorporate into what I do, but I am not a true, legitimate stand-up comedian. There are people who are much, much better at that than I am.
And Brian, I so appreciate you sharing all that with us and with our listeners today, because one of the things that I witnessed recently, I'm in a speakers club with, interestingly enough, with the LA Tribune, and the individual that actually recommended me for this particular group is
Mhm.
someone that knows a lot about speaking. So I thought, this is a little bit interesting, until I got in that room and some of the conversations that were had there, similarly to what you're saying, right? You have this unique genius where you're able to bring the experiences, your lessons learned, and the things that you taught the actors on, hey, here's how you break through, here's how you resonate, even across a screen with the audience. Those are things that are very, very applicable and so important, and most people miss out on. And that was a big aha for me when I started hearing other speakers and performers talk about their secret sauce and how they go about it. And I was like, wow, even though the person that introduced me is a master at this, still there is so much room. There's so much more opportunity to grow and learn. And so I'm hoping with that our listeners today have learned a ton, because you're not just another coach. I just want to make sure that we're being heard. You're not just another coach. You're someone that truly is able to bring experiences to life and
Mhm.
help those that have a message truly resonate and get that message across to their audience. And that's very powerful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I actually put it on my website, and this is something that I absolutely do believe, that everyone has a story and everyone's story is worth hearing. And, the people just have to be willing to share it. Not everyone's story is right for every audience, but you'll find your people, you will find your audiences. And if someone comes and asks you to speak, that room is meant for you. So hopefully, you need to keep that in mind and let that actually take some of the pressure off of you. I just did a talk this afternoon at lunch on public speaking, and we had a room full of people, full capacity, 40 people. I had to assume that all 40 of those people were interested in public speaking in some way. Otherwise, why would they have shown up? So you already have to think that these people are already rooting for you. They're already in your corner. Nobody wants you to fail. And it's just, yeah, it's knowing that your story does have an audience somewhere. It really, really does. And it takes time for you to find them.
One final question for you on
Sure.
that topic. There are a lot of entrepreneurs
Mhm.
that have done really well for themselves that are actually listening to this podcast. And we know they're there, and they also share the podcast with other individuals who also have stories to tell, and yet those stories never get told. What is the one thing you would recommend that they do to get out there in as big or a small fashion as they want, to get their story out there, to encourage others who need to hear what they have to say, because maybe, just maybe, they are the one person that will resonate with those younger entrepreneurs out there and people that are striving and wanting to do more for themselves
Yeah,
and
there,
for their
there,
communities?
there are a lot of high level executives out there who can stand in front of a group of people and speak confidently on just about any subject. When it comes to talking about themselves, a lot of them don't know how to do it. So, my encouragement or my words of wisdom, and this is just honestly advice that I'm coming up with off the top of my head, because I don't think there is any one right answer. But I would encourage you to get into as many rooms as possible, whether it be at networking events or conferences or conventions, and talk about anything but business. Talk about anything but business, because that's the automatic go-to. You go to a networking event, you go to a convention, you go to a meeting. What's the one of the first questions that anyone's going to ask you? What do you do? Now we're right into business talk. And you've got your superficial surface level answer of, here's what I do, this is what I've said. You're not even aware that you're even saying it anymore. You've said it so often. Take it in a different direction. Keep business off the table. Try and keep it out of the conversation. Be curious about the person. Show your curiosity for them to begin with. Again, it's not about you, it's about them. Show your curiosity, genuine curiosity in them, anything that you want to know about them. Because I can almost guarantee you're going to find a connection with them in something that you've experienced for yourself. And now you're off on a subject that has nothing to do with work. And you're giving them a chance to actually know you and see you as a human being and not just, once again, a title or a business card. Find any local speaking group or organization that's going to give you an opportunity to give you some stage time, to give you a spotlight, to give you a platform, to stand in front of a group of people, a group of strangers, and face those butterflies, face that anxiety, and hopefully feel supported in their encouragement of saying, yes, please tell us, come on, you're going to do. The speakeasy events that I hold every month here in Charlotte are just that. They're live in-person events for people who are interested in speaking in any capacity, whether you want to be a keynote speaker, a TEDx speaker, or you're a corporate professional who gives, monthly meetings, whatever it might be, or you just want to work on one-on-one speaking skills. For some people, this is a nightmare, just one person to one person. I give them the opportunity to face that fear, to take that chance, knowing that you don't have to be perfect. Everybody in this room is in the same boat as you. Everybody's here for the same reason. Everybody's just trying to get better. So it's not about you being the brightest person in the room. It's not about you having the loudest voice. Sometimes the person with the most impactful thing to say has the quietest voice. It's not about being loud. It's about being thoughtful. It's about being curious. It's about being genuine, being authentic, being human, and just taking an interest in someone else.
And knowing that what you have and what you've accomplished truly is worthy. And you have a lot of worthiness for the individuals that will resonate with you. And even if it's not on a public stage, if you want to get out there, get out there. And if you're listening to this, the likelihood that you've already achieved something that's worthy of a stage is really high. Mm-hmm. Don't wait to be invited. Right. Just like Brian said, let them know, hey, I'm willing to come, because oftentimes their misconception is you achieved so much that people are looking at you and they're probably afraid to even ask. So when you look in the mirror, just know that we're all human, and they would love to hear from you. So don't shy, don't stay in the background, take some, go back and listen to some of the things that Brian said in terms of things that you can do. And with that, Brian, is there anything else that you would like to leave with, any other thoughts you would like to leave our audience with before we go ahead and conclude today?
I think it ties into just what you were saying, is that, yes, remembering and reminding yourself that even if you've reached a level of success, if you're one of the listeners right now and where you have achieved a level of success that you were either striving for or even maybe above what you ever thought that you could have achieved, I'm sure that path wasn't easy for you. I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm sure that it took a great deal of effort, and I'm sure that it took your share of setbacks and failures. And sharing those things with people those are the lessons that we get to take away from it. Because at the same time, while you've reached this level of success, you're still working and striving for more, and you're still learning and you're still growing along the way. You never master it. We never master it. We never master it. We're always learning. We're always trying to get better. And it's our responsibility to share what we've experienced and our knowledge with the people who can benefit from it. If we hold it and keep it to ourselves, then what's the point?
I love it. So the point there is, don't hold it, don't keep it for yourself. And more importantly, realize that, guess what? The more you know, the more you're going to realize that there's so much more that you could be learning. So get out there. Let us know what stood out to you the most about this episode. Share that with us in comments as you go ahead and rate the show and this episode. And let us know what are some of the topics that maybe you would like for Brian to speak more on as we go from here. And until next time, stay tuned for your next episode of Your Business, Your Next Level.
Thank you for joining us on Your Business, Your Next Level podcast, where it is all about helping you make more, keep more, and elevating your business to the next level. To learn more, make sure you head over to www.podcast.excelstra.com, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Again, that's podcast.excelstra.com. CELSTRA.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.